Welcome back to the Marketing Rules podcast. And today I am joined by Angela Cripps, who is the Managing Director at Recruiting Jim. Now, most people listening to this, Angela, will know who you are. I would hope so. However,
are you saying I've been around a long time, James?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you're one of the many popular faces in the recruiting and staffing space. That's all I'm saying.
That's a lovely thing to say.
But for people who don't know you, for people who may be kind of tuning in from other parts of the world, can you give us a little bit of kind of about your background and a little bit of about the Recruiting Jim as well?
Yeah, certainly. So I've been in recruitment 32 years, was a consultant, was a manager, and then was a trainer for 5 years. This is all through Blue Arrow. So I spent 13 years at Blue Arrow and then decided to go it alone and set up my own company, Connemara UK. So got to travel the world, spent the last 5 years or so pre-COVID in the Far East, APAC, and yeah, loving life and getting to see all the elements that all parts of the world that I'd always wanted to see, as well as training, coaching, consultancy work within the recruitment industry. A few award ceremonies thrown in there as well that I host or judge on. So you're right, I've got my fingers in lots of different pies, but one thing I didn't have was online training. I'd done online webinars with the RCSA, and if I'm looking a little bit jaded, it's because I was doing one at midnight until 1:30 this morning. So they're still going, they've started up again, but didn't have any of my courses online and thought this is a bit that was missing. So that's where the Recruiting Jim came in. Alex Moyle I'd met at conferences, we'd done a couple of little things together and said, right, I need to get one of my courses online. That was last January. So we started with that one course. I then put my leadership program online as well. Luckily, the week before, we all locked down and everything went bonkers. So online then obviously was the way to go. Got more and more involved with Alex and the gym, ended up running it and becoming MD in the summer. And then by the end of the year, he was looking to do some different things and potentially outside the recruitment industry. So I bought it from him. He kept 20%. And we worked together on that. But now we've got over 70 courses. We've got over 20 coaches in the gym. So it's like a marketplace. Anything that you need, training, development, coaching, consultancy-wise, that's what we're all about.
And it is a great kind of site. If anybody's not going to visit it, they should go check it out. I'm not a contributor yet, but I'm sure I will kind of, I'm sure I've got a course in me somewhere that I can design for you. But
yes, but you have been a contributor because we do offer 4 free courses to everyone. So definitely do go and find us. Sign up for one of the free courses. I'll allocate the other ones to you. But Ask the Coach, we do every 2 weeks, where we get people in with industry knowledge and you can ask your questions, queries, challenges, and get some feedback. So there's 4 coaches on that every other Friday lunchtime. And you've been on that. So you have been.
I have been on that. Yeah. And a great time I had as well. Yes. But today we're going to talk a little bit about one of these areas that I think has become so prevalent during the last year. And no, we're not going to necessarily talk about everything kind of COVID based. We are going to talk about onboarding. And it was probably one of those things that was always tricky at the better times, even kind of pre-pandemic. But now we're in this kind of hybrid working model. Onboarding has gone from being solely online now to possibly being a bit online, a bit in the office, a bit somewhere else. And I think it's kind of time to kind of come back and just kind of reevaluate it and understand a bit about kind of how you navigate through this kind of minefield of bringing your kind of great talent on into your team and kind of sharing your culture with them in this kind of slightly kind of different kind of space now. So, could set the scene for us here. This kind of hybrid onboarding model. What are we talking about when we're talking about it? How does that kind of jigsaw all kind of fit together?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite excited about this. I've been doing onboarding for 25 years because as a manager in recruitment, people used to send their new people to me for a week. So we had 10 locations near to me. So any of those that had a new starter, they'd send them to me for a week and I would sort of onboard them, as it were. I loved it. I loved the training element. It was obviously always in me. So I've been doing it a long time and it was always face-to-face. It was always very time sucking, as it were, for whoever was responsible for it. And you had to pretty much sort of knock that week on the head, really, with regards to your own targets and that. And at that point, I realised, yeah, this isn't necessarily the way to be. So I'm looking forward to the future for the onboarding, because we've got the opportunity to make it a hybrid model, to have different elements to it. And that's what I've been working for about 15 years now. I've been writing onboarding programs for companies. And one of the first things that I do is get them to look at the resources they've got. Now, yes, that's any training sessions they've already created. Have they got any presentations about the company and where they're going in the future that will be great for a day one thing? Health and safety, has that been set up? So what have you got already? But those resources don't just go to documents and courses, it goes to the people as well. So if you're a small company, and the majority of recruitment companies are, then there's only going to be a couple of you to share this among. So it's still going to be pretty tough. So you've got to look at the internal human resources, but what about the external ones as well? Who else could you call on? So your CRM system, do they run a monthly training course, and you can coordinate that your starter starts in that first week, and therefore they get the training from them rather from you? They're getting it from the horse's mouth, how they're meant to use it, rather than all the shortcuts, all the bits that you've forgotten. I've just had a conversation this morning with someone where they've put that into their comments as we talk about your CRM and why you should love it. And of course, rubbish in, rubbish out. But they said the one thing that they're grateful for is that they've had some training this week from the company. And that makes a difference. I'm going to shout them out because it's good that they do that. And the fact I've actually got my notebook is their company at the moment that I'm using. So it's Soho. So well done, Soho, for offering that training to people. It's really critical. So any
other CRMs are available.
They are. And I've written blogs for quite a few of them, but it just happened to be them today.
Yeah.
So utilising all of that resources, taking a bit of time beforehand to plan it out. What is it you're going to do? What's going to be needed? What do you need them to achieve by when? Setting those objectives. So you're starting with the end in mind. It's like any other planning. What do you want them to be doing by when? Then start working it back, looking at, okay, so what needs to happen at each stage? And I do a 6-month onboarding program. So it's not a 1 day or 2 day or like, okay, your first week and then that's done. No, recruitment, there's so much to it. There's no way you're going to cover it all in even a week. So having 6 months to keep layering and getting people to do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Because if you've told them once and they don't get it and you're going, I've told them already, I don't know why they don't get it. Yeah, not surprising. It's just way too much to remember. So having it all played out, making sure you've got a schedule of what's going to happen when, giving that to them even before they start so that they're already engaged with the business and loving the culture and that you've planned this out for them. And that way, having that schedule, you can then allocate who's going to do what, who's the best person that does marketing calls. Okay, are they any good at sharing that with anyone else? Because just because they're the best doesn't mean that they're going to be a good trainer. But gathering their information, even if they're shadowing them and seeing what they're doing, and they get it through that type of osmosis and on the job training. And of course, we can do that now with Zoom calls and Teams. We don't even have to be in the same office. You can still be there and experiencing it with them. So there's lots of opportunities to make this a hybrid piece of work.
Is there a difference when you're bringing on an individual as opposed to a group in one go? So do you tackle this in a different manner? So if you're just, you mentioned the smaller business, it's probably likely to only be one at a time. Slightly bigger businesses who are growing might be bringing on 5. Potentially, I spoke to a business that's more than 5 new consultants they're bringing on today. And it's like there must be a difference in the way you kind of tackle that.
It's easier. So if you're doing that, be grateful for that. The elements they have to go through are still the same. Even if you've got different experience levels in there, you don't want to take shortcuts. So where I talked about having those objectives to start with, once you've mapped those out, you then allocate assessments to those. How am I going to see, have they actually achieved that or not? Have they got it to the skill level that I want? Have they got the knowledge that they need? And actually, are they going to represent our company well? Because different competency levels, obviously, everyone can do a sales call. How good it is, varied. So you want to make sure everyone goes through the assessments. The people that are more experienced might get to fast track some of the elements because they only do it once, they do it brilliantly, you're happy, great, we move on. And others might need it 2, 3, 4 times. What's great with a team though, is you've got the opportunity for them to actually support each other and buddy up. So part of those assessments in my induction program is like month 2, actually writing a report on the industry. So whatever sector they're involved in, and if they don't know what sector they're going to go to yet, which you tend to have with 5 bringing on board, I've done quite a few induction programs that way, where they get to experience all the different sectors in your business. They get to work in all the different elements. And then at month 3, for their probation, they actually tell you which one they would be best suited for and why. So you're not enforcing that on them. Now, of course, it has to fit with the business needs, but the likelihood if you bring in 5 on, you probably need 1 in each sector. And therefore, you've got a chance for them to actually put forward what they think. And working, go on.
So with when we're kind of bringing people on in these kind of through this induction program, is there specifically elements that work better online, or is it, I mean, I suppose the general consensus would be that it was best to do it all face to face if possible, but you may disagree there. But is there elements that that it's just easier to do online, or it's easier to do face to face? And can you obviously, you've mentioned several times about planning this out, and is that part of that planning process, right? That's got to be face to face, but that can be done online.
Yeah. I mean, but even then, the role plays face to face can be done through this environment and through webinars and Zoom meetings, things like that. So those assessments, as you go through, great if you set them up. So to give you an example, the end of week 1 is like either a 30 or a 40 multiple choice questionnaire. That could be done on SurveyMonkey. So they've got a time limit. You set it's exam conditions, 20 minutes. And they go through that, and they've got a score like 80%. So in other words, have they been listening? Have they been taking in information? Are they able to retain it? Because in week 1, if they're really struggling and they can't remember any of the information that you shared with them, you're going to be in trouble. So straight away, you put a few fun questions in there and fun answers as well. It's about making sure that they're actually retaining information, because as a recruiter, that's one of your top skills, to be able to gather all of that and to be able to bring it back again. So things like that can be done online. Learning about structure and process, that can be done online as well, either through your own course. Obviously in the Recruiting Gym, we've got 70 courses that cover all of this. So if you need help, you can actually do that, including an onboarding course with all of these documents and everything in. I might as well get that in there, because I've been doing it for 15 years. I finally got it online about 3 months ago. So it's all in there for you that you can just download, change the new starter name to the person's name, change line manager to whoever their manager is, put your branding on it, and away you go. So it takes you through each step. So there are a lot of elements, and it doesn't have to be paid for. There is so much out there now. Like I say, we do those 4 free courses. There would be a lot that you could find in there that you could then allocate for them to sit and watch and to go through. And because we're a gym, we have workouts. So it's not just watch it. It's no good going to a gym and just sitting watching, is it? You're not going to get anywhere. So you've got to actually put it into practice. So there'll be workouts and things that you can actually take to get them to do as well. And you don't have to be there for that. A lot of the time, research that they're doing. I always planned it in anyway, whether we're in an office or not, because there's always that time where they're sitting there going, what should I do? What should I do? They're busy, can't ask anyone. And they sit there, especially in the first week or 2, and they just wait for someone to come over or something to happen. So if you've got it all planned out, they have project work that they can be working on whenever they've got some downtime. So whether that's researching the industry, researching your competitors, writing a report on those, presentation on what they've learned in the first 3 months, all of this stuff comes in because you want to test their reading skills, their writing skills, their ability to present. And if they have got any issues with that, we've got a lot of people with dyslexia in recruitment. They tend to be brilliant salespeople and communicators. Try and get them to write it down, forget it. But if you know that, you can then adapt the assessment so that it could be a verbal assessment rather than a written one. So there's always flexibility in it, but making sure that they've got things to do when you're not around that really moves them forward and helps them to learn. Again, just comes down to the planning and thinking about what you want them to achieve.
So on the back of that then, are there kind of, from a training and the person whoever's running the induction, assuming that it's maybe a mixture of using someone like yourself and the gym and someone at the business, are there a new set of skill sets that someone administering that kind of training needs to kind of now learn because obviously part of it's done online, part of it's done face to face, part of it's you're relying on the person to kind of do themselves on their own, under their own motivation. As a trainer, and or in most cases that probably wouldn't even be a trainer, it might be their manager, for instance.
Yeah.
Are there skills that those people need so they can kind of manage this more efficiently?
First thing I thought of when you said that was patience. there's so many managers. I had a conversation about an hour ago where he's gone, training really isn't my forte. Director of a business is like, please help me because this just is not me. So appreciating that, looking at who you've got resources wise and identifying those strengths, because we know it's not easy. And I've actually, for the first time in 20 years, had to onboard someone myself. In the last 5 weeks. I've had a new starter join the company. I've used all my documents and just changed them. She's a marketing executive, but it was very easy to adapt it and to be able to use those. So I was grateful that I had it all ready to go, and it's worked brilliantly. But getting feedback from people that have been using this process. We got someone last week, they're only 4 weeks in, they've made 4 placements. I'm like, yes, it works. And that's the key to it. Giving them success, give them the opportunity to get successful quickly so they get the bug for it. If it's too long, we lose people. So 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months are critical time. So you've got to watch out for that. And back to your question around those skill sets that those people need. So apart from patience, they need to be organised. Mm-hmm. They need to have the plan. So either do it for yourself or get a pre-written one that you can then just adapt. And it's following through on your promises. So those one-to-one meetings, catching up with people. If you are where they're actually sort of working from home potentially at the moment, then there's times in the day where you're catching up and you're setting the expectation of what needs to be done by the next bit, and letting that person run the meeting. Let them talk. Let them say what they've done, what they've learned, what they've still got to do. Get them to write their own action plans. So it's very much giving them the responsibility of their own learning and development as they go through, the same as they have responsibility for the recruitment, for the clients, for the candidates. These are all skills that they need. And I think managers try and do too much and help them too much, and then it becomes unfortunately a catch-22 where the individual goes, oh, I can't do it because my manager always did it for me. So don't wait too long to get them involved. For us, it's about week 1 or sort of day 2 or day 3, getting them on the phones, whether it's updating with candidates that are on your database that haven't been spoken to for ages. You've got nothing to lose. Let them know what they're looking for and really work with them on those. And they could do lots of that and finding out information about the business and the industry at the same time. But also calling clients and doing reference calls. Great way to introduce themselves to a HR department. They're not doing any sales whatsoever. No pressure on them to come back with anything apart from the reference. And it's just, again, proving to your clients that you do what you say and you are reaching out and making sure you're getting references. So there's lots of ways to make sure they integrate. Get them involved in every other aspect of the business as well in some way, shape or form. So for me, I get them to screen and interview other people. So they can play themselves, they can play recruitment consultants as they were joining the business. And therefore they get to learn about who else is in the business, who else is in the company. They get to have that discussion. They get to actually practice the screening calls and the interviews that they would normally do with candidates. So put tasks together. So yes, they're learning. Yes, they're talking to other people and they're gathering knowledge on what they're capable of and what they're not. So if they need help, they go, oh, so-and-so was really good at that. Remember when I interviewed them, they said they could do that. I'll go and ask them.
All great advice. And what I want to do is just pick up on something you mentioned right at the start, was around using other outside sources for handling the training. So you mentioned the CRM provider who handled the CRM training. And that kind of opens up a larger question around technology and how the use of technology in onboarding, the use of technology for as an induction device, and for people who are handling the training who may not be the most kind of tech savvy people in the world, or they may have been forced to kind of be put into this position. And I see that possibly as another skill that may have had to been kind of almost forced upon the I'm going to say in quite a bit, the trainer, because again, it could be the manager, it could be a line manager or someone like that. So what's the kind of the journey of technology play in the onboarding process now?
Yeah, it is a difficult discussion, because you're right. A lot of trainers aren't necessarily tech savvy. And yeah, I had a conversation last week around this, and they're now looking to have LMSs, learning management systems, because of the situation that's happened, and realizing, yeah, we're not necessarily going to get to do those classroom training anymore. We need to have another option. So whether they do it for themselves, there's loads of great ones out there, or they use people like us, where we've got it already and they can set up their own area and have it white labeled and with their branding on it as well. So there's options for them. They don't have to necessarily do it themselves. It's a bit like outsourcing anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can outsource it to someone else and then get their support. Obviously, if you're doing it then they're going to be supporting you, helping you to get your own courses online, or you take whatever they've got as well already, and there'll be opportunities there. But it's asking for that help. Don't feel afraid to ask. Whatever tech you're using, ask for help, ask for training, ask for support, and what do they actually offer as part of the package. When you're going to look at buying any of these things, it should be part of it. Really frustrates me when there's a tech company where you have so much add-ons and you have to pay for this and pay for that. It's like, I'm buying your technology, I want to use it properly, help me to do that. Yeah. So I think make sure that you ask first. Don't ask, you don't get. It's always worth seeing what they've got to offer before you start.
The other thing we haven't kind of touched on is the fact that we've mentioned the smaller businesses. What about the kind of medium to larger businesses who, I don't know, let's say that they've done a bit of onboarding before, but they don't really have a department or a kind of a HR department. You know, how is this model then going to affect them in the way that they kind of bring on new people? Because they'll be doing it potentially en masse, with people starting at different times. I know that's kind of, but now with this hybrid model, you've got to make sure that, you know, that it's all timed perfection. You know, if you might have one person starting that day, two people starting next week, another one, and you know, the logistical just management of that just seems, you know, it would scare the hell out of me.
Yes, yeah, we're back to that sort of, where you've got maybe 5 joining at the same time. It is better if you can actually have a week, but this is our starting week. So a lot of larger companies that I work with, they won't have people coming in all through the month. They'll have a week. This is our week. Now, if no one starts that week, obviously they can change it for that month, but the aim is that they start at the same time. They then work together, they support each other, they become a little group on their own. And therefore they can help each other. You'd have mentors within the company. So if you're a larger company, yes, you've got maybe the trainer or the line managers as well. So they've potentially got 2 contacts already, plus the people they're starting with. You want to allocate a buddy, mentor, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't have to be related to the position. It could be the administrator, the finance manager, the accountant. Who's the supportive people in your business? Who are the ones that have got EQ as well as IQ, that can look out for those signs of worry and stress and anxiety, which just reminds me, it's our daily workout. We do one every morning. It's anxiety this week. So if you're feeling that, go and find that those webinars, because we all need help at the moment. So it is easier if you've got more people. It's not harder, because they can support each other, and you deliver it once. So if you're doing a session, then you get all of them online or all of them in a room, you deliver it once, and then you set those assessments and opportunities for them to put it into practice, where they can help each other, they can work together, they can role play it together to start with. So again, there's not really any pressure for them, because they're all in the same boat. So it does make it a little easier, rather than just having the one that's there and they're going around everyone.
Before I let you go, Angela, the kind of question I tend to ask a lot of my guests when we are, pinning down a certain subject is what's the future? So where does the future what does the future look like for onboarding in general, hybrid onboarding, the technology around onboarding? Is it, LMS kind of systems that everyone has much cheaper versions that we can all kind of use and tap into? What does it look like in 5-10 years time?
Okay, well, I won't progress to say I know what that's going to be, but I can certainly talk about what I hope it would be. Sure. At that point. So 5 to 10 years time, I'm looking for every business to have a structured 6-month onboarding program and appreciate the benefit it brings to engaging their staff, getting them successful quickly, and making them feel part of the business. So those that, I'm still seeing it now, where they turn up and it's like, oh, well, have a go at this, I'll catch you later. Yeah, that we don't have that anymore, because what a waste of time, effort and money bringing a new person in to then not protect that, because this person is a lot of resource for you. So make sure that you're giving it everything that they're going to be successful. So the hybrid, I like the idea of. I'm seeing sort of people, when they start maybe 3 to 4 days in the office, a day at home where they can catch up, they can do their online training, they can take time, they can think about things, they can reflect. We all learn in different ways, and those reflectors don't work well when we're just activists throwing stuff at them all the time, have a go. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, this isn't going to work. Or the pragmatists that are just like, well, where's the reality in this? And how's it worked before? And give me the case studies and all of that type of stuff. So having some time for themselves and giving them the space in those first few weeks to really assimilate the information, rather than it just being full on. So you've got to put gaps in that training for them to come back and say, I'd like to do that bit again. I need more input on this, so that they feel comfortable saying, here's my strengths. I'm doing really well at this and I'm loving it. This I haven't got a clue on. I've no idea what you're talking about and it's not working for me. So that environment, that it's okay to say that you've not got it yet. So you've got 6 months to learn. And what I do want to see as well is that anyone that gets promoted, they may have been in the company 5 years or so, they get promoted, let's say team leader, billing manager, that they have a probation period and they have a structured onboarding program for that new job. They get put into it, you assume they know what they're doing. It's a totally different job to manage people than it is to be a top consultant. And they should have the opportunity to trial it. And if they don't like it, or if it's not for them, to be able to go back to what they were doing. They were a great consultant, or they were very good at what they did to get promoted. Don't lose them out of the business. So actually having more thought around onboarding each position throughout their life, not just that first one as they come into the company, but what needs to be done. Now, it's a bit random, but I'm doing this at the moment for the Church of Sweden. It does not matter what company you are or what industry you are. Anyone new joining your team needs an onboarding program. So make sure that you put time and effort to think about that. And I know one of our daily workouts, we did a week of it as well. So there are open resources for everyone as well to be able to find out about it. There's so much online. Go and have a look, find what works for you, but make sure you are doing something. And that's my vision of the future, that every business, no matter what they do, they really think about their people before they start and they have it all planned out for them.
Angela, amazing advice as always. We will include all of your details in the show notes, as well as links to the gym as well. But for now, thank you very much.
My pleasure.